Welcome guys, another episode of How I Got the Shot. So today I'm not going to be on screen much. I really just want to focus on the photo shoot and literally how I got the shot. This concept was originally supposed to be done on location, but because I live in Florida, because of the rain, so we had to move everything into studio, which kind of made me reset everything I was thinking. There was a lot of adjustments and a lot of going with intuition and kind of going with the flow with things. Throughout the shoot, as the model was switching looks, I was going to Pinterest to gather more ideas. Because my whole thing is I like to prepare as much as possible. I always leave the window open for creativity to flow, but I'm like, why not plan? Why not look up ideas? There's no point in me having to reinvent the wheel and put that kind of pressure on myself for no reason. What I'm going to show you today is my team and I moving on the fly, where we're just really having a lot of fun in studio and we're creating really, really dope shots that we're proud of. So let's jump right into it. All right, so we're gonna start in Pinterest. And as you guys can see, as we're scrolling through Pinterest, these ideas, again, are all over the place to a degree. Because the first step, anytime I'm working with a new model, is I'm gonna send her a bunch of ideas that I like and that I'm really in love with and I would love to shoot. And I wanna get their input so I can know what they're into. I wanna know what they like and what they don't like, the things that they're drawn to, the things that they're not interested in doing at all, because everyone's different, everyone has a different brand, everyone has different goals. So as we're scrolling through, she told me that she loved everything. And that's always a good thing to hear. That lets me know like that how I view her is how she viewed herself in regards to photography and modeling. And so I showed a tutorial as well and I got her input and we were able to really make sense of what I sent. So this image here with the young lady with her hand on the pole, that was one of my baseline images. This was like the one that kind of motivated everything. And so we kind of wanted to, that's what we wanted to do on location. But you know, things change. And when they change, you just got to make the adjustment. So once we got in studio, I started gravitating more towards this look, more towards not the colors, but just that lighting choice of having that hard shadow in the background, which meant using hard light on her. And so like, okay, I think that's what I want to do. I want to focus on having just the one light setup, but that changed. That definitely changed. As we were on the shoot and we're going through Pinterest, I didn't always find exactly the exact concept I wanted to do as far as lighting, but a lot of times I was just wanted to focus on the pose or the feel. So we still stuck to the feel that we had in this original mood board, but I definitely wanted to go with the flow and get a feel for who she is and her modeling style. Her posing style really gave me motivation to do some of the things that I did. I had a few preconceived notions, and as soon as I gave her like that window to start doing what she felt, I was able to build off of that, and it worked out really, really well. She really gave me something to build with. Once we made it to the studio, the first thing we did was obviously start with makeup. From there, Justina and I began setting up the gear. So for the shoot, I used the Canon R5. I used 2 or 3 Profoto D1s. I don't even remember how many. It might have been 4. I used the 5-foot Octabox. I used a strip, I think a 1x6 strip box at one point. I used a beauty dish at one point. I used a lot of lights. And as you can see through the set, like I had a lot of things kind of spread out because that's how I felt. I really felt like, okay, I gotta make something happen. I'm just gonna pull together everything and I'm just gonna make strategic decisions as inspiration hits me. Out of all the looks that we did, I think this might have been my favorite one. I'm sure everyone on the team loved these shots as well. This look just really got everyone motivated. I think also we were in a really good groove at this point, so it felt really effortless to go through and create these shots. And as you can see, they all have different effects on them. I was also playing with a program called Dehancer. This is my first time using it. Dehancer is a software that you can use for multiple apps, multiple creative apps. That gives you a film emulation, but it gives you like an authentic film emulation. They give you a lot of leeway on what you can do and what you can't do. I learned a lot about film just in the experience of trying to figure out the software, watching tutorials on how to use the software, and then have my own experience with it. Like I really, really fell in love with it. We're gonna break down one of my favorite shots. I thought about going through all of these, but I really want to focus on this one and this one. So this shot, let's go to the raw version of it. And the reason I'm doing this is because my approach is pretty much the same on all of the images, just a little bit different. So as you can see, I cleaned up a lot. A lot of little small things that were super important to me. I wanted everything to look pretty uniform. There was a hard decision I had to make about whether I wanted to get rid of this whole thing or not. And in working with it, I realized it looked better if it was just straight. It looks like it's an element that was actually a part of the session. And it wasn't just, you know, a light there. It looks like it was intentional. So I'm like, okay, let's definitely leave that. And you can see that I cleaned up the hair in the back. I wanted to give it a more uniform look so it wasn't distracting. And I added this, I did multiple color grades, but this color grade was one of my favorites. I felt like it really fit the mood of the shot. I used red as like the baseline for everything because of her lipstick. And I felt like everything else would just kind of make itself work together. I felt like it would just come together as a whole, and I believe it did. We can go step by step through this a little bit. So let's do this. All right, so we got our baseline. So we have our I should really lay it. I should really label my layers, but I didn't. Go through, did a little color correction. We ran into frequency separation. And as you can see, I cleaned up a lot of stuff with the frequency separation. I spent a lot of time in here with the patch tool and really making sure I get a good blend between the transitions. Transitions are everything to me when it comes to Photoshop. I think sometimes people get too caught up in trying to just smooth out skin and not understanding like why the skin is smooth. So once you understand that everything is about transitions between the different areas, it makes everything else make sense. It just makes it a simpler process. Also understanding the anatomy plays a good role in this as well. So we're gonna continue going. This is when I fixed the hair. Add in some texture, doing another level of make sure I smooth out everything. Then I even out the skin tone. As you can see, there were a lot of reds in her skin, but I wanted to even it out, make it kind of more on the orange or yellow side. And then this is when we get into the color grading. This is when things got really interesting. And I started really having fun with the colors. I'm really, really into color grading. So I did multiple rounds of using the enhancer to get these different colors. So this was one of my other favorite ones. I thought again, like it played really well off of her lips because that's the main color as far as makeup, because you can't see any of the other makeup colors. So I felt like that was a good choice. And then we get to my favorite one. So let's go step by step as far as the color grade. And yeah, as you can see, they built on top of each other. That feels really intense. Oh, okay. All right. So let's get into this color grade, because that is my favorite color grade from this set. So if we're looking at the color grade, we can actually group these layers together and kind of break it down step by step. I'm not a big advocate for actions making every decision for you, but when used strategically, it all makes sense. Because, you know, as photographers and as artists, we don't have time to we don't always have time to do everything from scratch. And I get that. But it is good to learn how to do it from scratch. One of the things that I did when I first got into photography, I was using something called VSCO. I'm not sure what people call it, but I was using VSCO. And what I would do in Lightroom is that I would apply it, but then I would go to the right-hand side where all the tools were and literally look at what the settings were, because I wanted to understand how do you take an image from being normal to having this an entirely new look. So that was one of the ways I kind of reverse engineered VSCO to learn how to use. So that was one of the ways I reverse engineered an action to learn how to use it. So that was one of the ways I reverse engineered an action to learn how to color grade and learn how to manipulate my photos in post. So yeah, because when you see the word infinite color here, you'll know that's what that means. So after creating this color grade, my goal was to maximize, again, use this red and use that as a basis for everything. And let's break down every layer really quick, so you guys can kind of see like how it gradually built up into this red. And now this was like the end of what Infinite Color was able to do. And then I decided to bring it down just a tad. And now it looks more realistic. It looks more pleasant. So I was able to, once I saw what Infinite Color came up with, I was like, okay. And mind you, this is me pressing it a ton of times. This is me manipulating things, making small adjustments within. I wasn't just accepting whatever Infinite Color put out. I decided to, you know, make adjustments to make it fit my brand and what I'm into. And then this last layer of vibrance was key, because without this layer of vibrance, it looks crazy. You see how oversaturated it is without it? So adding in that vibrance brought her skin tone back down. It makes it seem as though like that's just the feel of the lighting that was there, when in fact it wasn't. But I love this image. Let's go over to this image. So this was one of the full, obviously this is the full, so now switching over to this image here. So switching over to this full body image. So switching over to this full body image, things are a little bit different, but very similar. One of the things that I was mindful of, and I actually left on purpose, was the floor. In our studio, we do paint the floor. We paint it white, and then it gets dirty. And then we paint it white, and it gets dirty, and we paint it white. Then after a while, you don't paint it as often. One of the guys, Peter Colson, made a comment in one of his videos about his floors. If you look at his work, Peter Colson is an Australian fashion photographer. And when you see his photos, his floor is just experienced, is a good word. It's had some time with models on it. So I kept that in mind, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna go through and make the floor perfect. I don't think it even needs to be perfect for what we're doing. Let's start from the beginning. Now this is the file with no changes to it. This is just raw shot of the camera, as you can see. Beautiful, beautiful image. She gave me a lot to work with. I'm not gonna lie, like this is one of the reasons why I love working with agency models. A lot of them already kind of have a feel for themselves. They're very comfortable with their body, and they know their angles. They know what's flattering for them. And then she followed direction extremely well, because I do push people. Like I'm always trying to be aggressive about getting the next look, getting something dope. So I'm always giving people that extra push of energy to get something that I think all of us would be proud of. All right, so let's go through these layers again. So I made small changes, nothing ridiculous. Cleaned up the skin, made adjustments to that blue. Yeah. Now as you can see, I took in her dress, you can see the magenta that's there. I got rid of that. I had to just get rid of that. That didn't make any sense to me. I didn't think it didn't fit the shot. It wasn't very flattering, so I had to get rid of that. And then get to the colors. I love playing with color. I just really do. So for this one, I'm like, okay, let's go more of a, when you're thinking about color grading, one of the first things they teach you is this whole teal and orange thing. I'm saying it like I never used it, like I didn't just use it in this shot. But everyone, that's kind of like a go-to of a lot of people. It makes things very simple. If you can put blues in your shadows, and then you can put your oranges and your yellows into your mid-tones and highlights, then you know your image is gonna automatically almost be flattering. Then your image will basically be flattering by default. It just works. Everyone kind of knows that it works. So I made some more. So that was the first step in me getting things figured out. My second step involved going red again. So let's. So my second step involved. Oh, sorry. Say sorry to everyone. So how I got to this point was through Dehancer again. I used Dehancer. Again, amazing piece of software that gives you this whole film vibe to it. I knew if I did that, it would kind of look like it was already in a magazine, like it was already printed on paper. And that was definitely the main goal. I didn't want it to look as though it was just a digital photo. I wanted to give a more classic feel to it, and classic in the sense of like how things are printed in magazines. They always have a ton of grain when you see something printed in magazines. So let's go into the next step, which was making everything desaturated. Let's click on this layer and find out what we did here. Bam, bam. There's the culprit. So after this, I went into the cyan and removed all the cyans. I wanted to, you know, put more emphasis on her skin when it came to the color grading and letting everything else just accept whatever those colors are, if that makes sense. Because I felt if everything else was like a neutral color, it would just take on the color, rather than with her skin, I'll have her skin interacting with the whatever color grade that I do. So our next step was using infinite color as well. Again, my next step was using infinite color again. Big fan of infinite color. And then I broke down all my layers here to get that same feel we had in this image. As you can see, everything looks very, very similar. So after using infinite color to get here, I added one more step, which was to remove the color cast off of the dress. I still wanted you to focus on the fact that it was silver and not, you know, get caught up in anything else. So I wanted to put emphasis on the fact that the dress is silver because as the fashion photographer, we have to sell the clothes. So I wanted to make sure the clothes still have the same look as they did originally. And then we take that same vibe, and that's the same approach I took to every other image in here. Obviously made plenty of adjustments to it, but the same vibe, using the enhancer to add that film and grain effect. I added the rest, the different ones. As you can see with this background, it's a little bit different. For these edits, I did a lot of playing around. My view on test shoots is that I should use them to test. This is when I practice. This is when I try things that I normally wouldn't try. This is when I experiment and explore. Because when I'm working with a client, I have to adhere to a very specific brief and make sure that my client is happy with the final results. When it comes to a test shoot, yes, the model and my team should be happy. This is why I always create a clean version of every edit. But then I put time in for me. I do things that I'm interested in, things that I'm drawn to, and these are the results. I would definitely encourage you guys to do the same thing. So thanks again, guys, for tuning in. Be on the lookout for more content coming soon. But make sure you guys follow me on social media. I'm Profoto Photo on all sites, you know, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, wherever you are, Profoto Photo has an account there. November 12th, I'm gonna have another workshop. It's gonna be focused on photography, obviously, but also on studio lighting and posing for models or posing your subjects. Folks, guys, people, humans, whoever is watching, if you have questions about photography, feel free to email me or send me a DM on Instagram. I do reply. My goal here is to help folks get better at art, create more images that have impact, and help people be able to bring the vision they have in mind to life. So definitely reach out. I will help you out as much as I can. I'll see you guys soon.
Whoa, are you talking about like magazine? What?